looking into a supernova here. Okay. All right. Have just a couple of announcements before we get started here. First, again, we'd really appreciate, from the standpoint of courtesy to the speakers, that you be on time, coming back in at the announced start. And then also the display area, as most of you have seen, is actually in the very back of the auditorium. So we'd rather there not be any activity going on back there because this curtain does not block any of the sound. So as a courtesy, again, we'd rather have everyone seated during the presentations. Cell phones off or destroyed. There are drinks allowed here in the auditorium, and there are vending machines that are outside in the hall there. Also, during a break, there may be a break room downstairs that has a canteen or something like that. I'm not sure if that's open, but there are a couple little coffee shops in close proximity to where we are, but the breaks are going to be short, only 15 minutes, so you'll need to get back very quickly, please. And again, we have the audios that are available pretty much immediately after each of the presentations. We really strongly encourage you to get some of those, and also to sign up for videos if that's something that you would like. Most of you may not be aware that this whole presentation, the whole conference itself, has been underwritten by the board of New Energy Movement. It has not been from funding. So we have So we've had a great amount of volunteer support for this, and that includes the AV team that's doing a great job to put out these audios and videos. It includes Sean Galloway, who I think you all agree is a tremendous performer and really aligned with the spirit of what we're trying to do. So please support Sean by purchasing his music. I Choose Love is a great CD. Okay, I want to introduce to you again Alden Bryant. Alden has a very special presentation for you.
Given the nature of this crowd of people, this group here today, and the spirit coming through the last couple of days in your lives, I've got something to share with you that's in song. The United Nations was formed in 1945, and it had an official music, Shostakovich music, in English words, and that was the official song of the UN. It was a great song of hope and joy at the end of the Second World War. And the last lines of their song was, "Our children shall live proud and free." Many times I've been unable to sing that because of millions that have died since that time in 1946. And then in December 10th, 1948, was the Declaration of Human Rights by the UN. That whole declaration was put to music by James Wood of Berkeley some 35 years ago. It's been sung in 3 or 4 continents, many places, including the United Nations building on December 9th, 1988, after 40 years after its start. That was done, and that whole cantata was done by the United Nations Chorus and 6 soloists from the Bay Area. That was done on the day in the UN when the all-day conference on the climate stabilization, out of which came the Rio Summit and the Climate Treaty, and we've referred to that before. This music was done during that noon hour. And in this short bit of music I'll share with you, in the middle, this piece is done in the 5 languages of the countries that have the veto power. So it's in the Spanish, the French, the Chinese, the English, and the Russian. I did the Russian solo for many years in this. In fact, some of this was done at the end of the Vietnam War when 75,000 people marched across San Francisco. 60,000 ended in the large stadium there, and a few of these notes helped open that conference. And I'm telling you, that's pretty heavy duty. to sing to 60,000 people to stop that war. All human beings are born free and equal. They are endowed with reason and a conscience, and should act toward one another in the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood. And then the Russian, все люди рождаются свободными, равными, наделенными разумом и совестью, и поступать должны в отношении друг, friendship, друг друга в духе братства. And now the final chorus. The will of the people shall be the basis of government, and I sure feel good being here with you on this today. And the will of the people shall be the basis of government. This will shall be expressed in a periodic elections, which shall be held by universal and equal suffrage. All people are entitled to international and a social order in which
You've got a tough act to follow. I think Alden could probably do about 500 push-ups right now, too. I saw you practically leap down all those steps. Thank you, Alden. Wow. Okay, I have the privilege of reintroducing Dr. Brian OLeary, who's going to pretty much tie up a lot of the information that he presented yesterday to you as regards New Energy Movement. Brian OLeary.
Lavalier mic, never got it. No, this is a TV mic. It's the same? Ah. Wonderful technology. Ah, yes. You know, it's funny because I think 100 people have asked me since yesterday, why Ecuador? And I have an answer. It's a two-word answer. Why not? Now, if you want to know really why, check out the website, and it will be posted in due course. And you'll learn a little bit more about why we've made the decision we made. Anyhow, we left off yesterday with a slide which basically summarizes some of the feelings that I have about the question of what kind of energy source do we want. This kind of turns around a question in which people have given their power to corporations and to the government to make those decisions for us. And it is now time that we make those decisions. And this is a very crude first cut at that question, is what criteria do we need to develop to have a viable energy source for the future? And one that I forgot to mention on this list, but I'll start it out first and foremost, is it needs to be feasible and reliable. And right now, the new energy sources that we have are at the proof of concept stage. And it's this nuance that many people don't understand, that it takes a lot to get from proof of concept to commercial development. You just can't expect this to happen overnight. And it needs support. So if any of you have billionaire friends, even millionaire friends, or any of you are a millionaire or billionaires and you want to save the planet, there is no better way to do that than to contribute to the research and development of new energy. And meanwhile, there are other tasks that need to be attended to, which the new energy movement plans to do. And today we invited two people to join our board. I'm very privileged to say. One is Terry Sisson. I think I see you out there, Terry. And stand up. I just want to give you acknowledgement. Terry is fantastic at organization. And that's what we need the most now, is organizational structures. So that, and you'll learn about this later, we're going to be handing out material about ways in which you can help organizationally, that there will be different resource focus groups that will be working on various aspects as we grow and we become more and more of a visible, publicly transparent public organization. The other new board member, I'm very pleased to say, is Tom Vallone, who was a speaker yesterday. Tom, are you here? Anyway, I'm delighted because we need more of the technical input. And right now we're kind of more of a social organization. And we need that kind of balance. We need that kind of awareness so that we can begin to compile the technologies, begin to understand a little better. And also, of course, I want to acknowledge Mark Cummings, who's going to be the next speaker, who has already done a lot of this work, assessing the technologies through his organization called Dynamis. So this is going to constitute some of our next steps, and you'll learn more and more. Now, the other thing I did was to draft a resolution for new energy. We always sometimes want to have a document to kind of bind us. And so I'm going to ask Joel and the staff to pass out these resolutions. I'll read it aloud. It's really quite bland and neutral, so you can be of any political party or persuasion or whatever.
I'm going to pass them out after you're finished.
After I'm finished, this will be passed out. A couple of minute break, and that will happen then. But I'm going to read it aloud, and so here it is. Whereas, 1, current and envisioned energy use is unsustainable and is destroying life on Earth. 2, revolutionary new energy sources are being researched with many scientifically validated experiments that could lead to orders of magnitude reduction in cost and pollution and the potential for decentralization. These include vacuum, zero-point energy, magnetic motors, cold fusion, advanced hydrogen technologies, and thermal processes previously unacknowledged by mainstream science. And 3, one or more of these technologies, if properly developed, could lead the world to greater abundance, political stability, and a healthy environment. And 4, for more than a century, these new initiatives have been effectively suppressed by powerful interests, tragically blocking any public awareness or support for fulfilling this promise. Therefore, we, the undersigned, form a public movement to 1, support research and development of the most promising concepts which could lead to delivery of reliable, inexpensive, clean, decentralized, safe, and renewable energy for everyone on the planet. And 2, openly discuss and debate new energy choices and policies. And 3, develop an ethic that would ensure a peaceful transition to a truly sustainable future for ourselves, our children, and our world. So I thought I'd hit a little more in detail on these criteria. And as I said before, I should put in feasible. I think I was half asleep when I compiled this. And another one, of course, very important, is clean. And by that I mean basically zero emissions or close to zero emissions and minimal full life cycle environmental impact. That's a very important question. And you know, in one of the last issues of Infinite Energy magazine, Jean Maloff addressed that question about taking a really good, careful look at all of the renewable options and to examine what the full life cycle environmental costs truly are if we were to go in certain directions. Now, I also admit, and I didn't list in the resolution, and acknowledge that there are many low-tech technologies coming along too, such as cheap photovoltaics. So I don't mean to exclude those either. And so these kinds of questions need to be discussed and debated. So this is like a first cut, just like our mission statement, which is posted on newenergymovement.org. These are subject to change, to modification, to critiques, to discussion and debate. Because after all, this is a social and public movement. This is not a exclusive group of elite people. It includes all of us. Cheap. Certainly the new energy sources ought to be cheap. It should be affordable to everybody on the planet. And there's no reason why we can't do that. Now, this is too strong and negative a phrase. Again, I was half asleep. Let's put it this way. The energy trusts that are running the world now can no longer run the world. And this, of course, is the most strident, revolutionary idea of them all. We need to be able to stand up to them. We've heard Steve Greer, of course, talk about his determination to do that. We're going to need to stand and be counted about that too. We want this energy source, these sources, to be decentralized. We don't need power plants anymore. We don't need grid systems anymore. We can apply it locally for communities and homes. And this is a very important concept that will obviously revolutionize things. We want the energy source to be benign, to be safe. No weapons use, no overuse. This is a, thank you, yeah. This is a very important consideration and one that we've given a lot of thought to, and we welcome your comments and critiques. Because one of the things that one of the obstacles we've run into regarding new energy is that most people that call themselves environmentalists object to new energy. I talked to one very eminent environmentalist about any particular system, about how are we going to be able to make a system truly safe, truly benign, where it wouldn't be overused. And this is a very important point of discussion. I believe it can be done, but it can only be done by intelligent social and political revisions in our system. And then finally, whatever new energy source, we want it to be publicly accountable. We don't want secrecy. We don't want windfall profits. We want this for the benefit of all of humanity. And in a way, this kind of drives the kind of social change we need anyway. So these are some of the things that I've been thinking about anyway, and need a lot of discussion and debate. Now, in this journey that I've taken through new energy, and in my book, Re-Inheriting the Earth, I began to also observe the obstacle that we call corporations. And many of you are probably aware of the role in corporations in ruling the world. There's even a book by that name, When Corporations Ruled the World, by David Korten. I encourage you to not only read up on the technical aspects of candidate new energy systems, but I invite you also to look at some of the social and political aspects of what's going on, why this resistance is so great, because it's sort of like people ask me, hundreds of people, why Ecuador? Well, thousands of people ask, well, why shouldn't we just go ahead and do it? If it's there, we just do it. Well, a few assassinations later, you begin to understand why. And many former American presidents, and I emphasize the word former, had addressed this question and discovered while they were in office that the corporate control of this country, now the only superpower in the world, has been going on for a long time. It's endemic to the system. It's one of the diseases of the system. Abraham Lincoln said, "To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men." And boy, do we ever need to protest. Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "The truth is that liberty is not safe if the people tolerate the growth of private power to the point where it becomes stronger than that of their democratic state itself." That, in essence, is fascism. And the Eisenhower quote, when he left office in 1961, he said, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought by the military-industrial complex." Boy, my reading glasses. It's hard for me to read. Maybe I can read it up there. Is this? Yeah. "The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We must take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals so that security and liberty may prosper together." That's the kind of statement that comes from the heart of a Republican. Republicans are okay, some of them. Thomas Jefferson said, "I hope we shall crush in its birth the aristocracy of moneyed corporations, which dare already challenge our government to a trial of strength and bid defiance to the laws of our country." So this is not new. It's just, it's exaggerated. So what kind of steps can we take? Yesterday I talked more about the technical stuff. I talked about the fact that at first we need to become aware of the situation and how grave it is, and be willing to look at solutions. And in a way that means educate, educate, educate. So many of you ask me the question, what can I do to help? Well, the answer is follow your passion, find a role, get into one of the resource groups, but also, while you're doing that, educate yourself, because we don't have educational institutions yet on this topic. Educate yourself about the potential and possibilities, and of course have an open mind about it. And don't listen to those people that are trying to suppress it. That's not going to help you. And some of the steps here, and then also in the technical steps, of course, is to become, to look at the non-polluting energy options as they begin to unfold, as they become concepts, laboratory prototypes, as you get further and further towards a future. In other words, we all want to take part in this decision-making process. This is very important. Clean up and enhance our personal ecologies. Everything that applies to the human body and how healed or unhealed it is applies also to the collective, to the earth. And the role of water and energy in creating that is a very important aspect. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the overlap of some of these things. And in a way, the medical paradigm, the conflicting paradigms between old allopathic medicine, cut 'em and drug 'em, on the one hand, and on the other hand, a more gentle approach using consciousness, homeopathy, and a number of other modalities in holistic health, provide an alternative solution. The same applies to the Earth as a whole. So when we look at the water systems of the Earth and we see how foul they are, and the fact that one can take Schauberger type of technology and apply it not only to produce energy out of the motion of water or electrons or whatever, but it also can purify the water. There's a great book, Gene Manning yesterday referred to it briefly, called Messages from Water. I highly suggest you go out and take a look at that book. It's now out in English. It's called, there's a word before, Hidden Messages from Water. And there they photograph water droplets that have been frozen into hexagonal ice crystals with a microscope. And what they find is that foul water looks terrible. It's all kind of deformed. And whereas water that is pure forms beautiful crystals. But not only that, but when Mozart music is playing, the water does very well. When hard rock is being played, it's all deformed. When people, meditators, think positive thoughts, the water becomes very orderly, very good. And there's a lot of experiments on this. And that's why in my book, Re-inheriting the Earth, and my other studies, some of my previous books, Exploring Inner and Outer Space, The Second Coming of Science, it's very easy to apply many of the principles that confront us with energy. As Christy Whitman, the former Environmental Protection Agency head, a quote from her is that water is the oil of the 21st century. And it's going to become the most important issue, I think. So in the new energy movement, we don't want to diffuse our energy, but at the same time, we want to be aware of the entire biosphere and use similar principles, social principles, to apply to that. So our personal ecology is very important. In other words, we need to be healed. We need to be balanced, psychically balanced. And we can't have these thugs running the country or the world. You know, we need to be able to qualify or requalify